Just while we're waiting for those insights to come across, I'm going to make a very quick mention of some of our contributors to this week. Firstly, from last night, again, fantastic evening and good to spend some time with all of you. And the entertainment, as you know, was outstanding. And I do want to acknowledge some other people who were involved with last evening as well. Seth Bronze, I'm not sure if Seth's here this morning, but our guitarist, who's also a graduate of our Kawa Oranga program, so we're plugging for Kawa Oranga. I'm still taking enrollments, by the way, so it's not too late. Te Ropu Matarua, Tipi Wihi Peihanga and his team, Tasha Webi, Titahi, who are a local Ropu. Their kaupapa is looking at the embodiment of Tu and Rongo. So last night's performance was really just a small snippet of the work that they do. Interestingly enough, Tipi's Ropu were founded a long time ago, and they practice every Thursday at 4 o'clock down here at the beach. So if you want to go down tomorrow morning and have a look, ko te wā poho, ko te wā karaka, ko i ata ki te moana e wā Pacific Hills for the dinner music, including the talents of Ora Palo Tupaki. So again, a big mihi to Ora, as well as those who have been doing our live streaming. I hope I pronounced this right. Seamus Bentham, yep. Chris Wilson and Regan Hafita on video. Photography, Norm Heke and Ruka Chitney, and AV, our TVS Audio Progress. So hopefully I've covered off everyone on that list, but really just an opportunity briefly to acknowledge all of you. And of course, all of our sponsors for this week, the International Funders for Indigenous People, and of course the J.R. Mackenzie Trust, who have come here in association with the Wānanga Ōrākau. So a big thank you to all of you. We had a great day yesterday, and we're keen and we're ready to roll for another fantastic day today, our second day. We've got some excellent kaikourero lined up for you, and remembering that our theme for this week is remembering our past and reclaiming our future. So keep that in the back of your mind as our presenters speak to you today. This morning we are starting with Dr. Jessica Hutchins, who's about to present shortly. So please fill up these front tables in one come down and get a seat at the front here. Jessica is our keynote address for this morning. And then after that, we're actually going to break into two streams. Those two streams focus around food sovereignty. Stream 1 is going to be in here, in this part of Ngā Purapura, and stream 2 is over in Kukutuaki, where we were yesterday. So please take some time to look at your program, and you'll have a whakamarama or an explanation there of each of those streams. And once we're ready to go, I'll sort of direct you in the right place. After that, we have kaitimo, light refreshments, onto our next presentation for the morning, and then we'll work through things as best as we can. We're going to try and stop in a group photo just before lunch, so please don't take off. Just before lunch, we're going to actually corral all of you next door, and Norm, our photographer, is going to hopefully get a shot from up top there. So I'll keep you up to speed with everything. Before we start this morning, we will commence with a karakia and get into the right frame of mind. And once we've done our karakia, we'll move on to our manuhiri for this morning. Takari mai te ata ku te ata I tua ku te ata I waho ku te ata I roto ku te ata I nei tau I ira mai e. Mai e te tukua, mai e te tapito, mai e te kāpio gāriki, mai e tapito ki ngā tua. Oi, kapina te mauri ko te mauri apua toa kiringa kia nei tau ura, kiringa kia nei tau ira. Kia tau te mauri kiringa kia nei pūpāna no te au whānui, e tū kuno totu whai oro tāne te whai ora, tēnei te matatau ka eke. Whakatū tārewa ki tarangi, whāno, ara mai te toki hauie, hui e, tai ki e. Nō reira, kia ora tata, ata maari e, morena. I tēnei wā ka tukunātu te wāhi ki tō tātou kai kōrero tuatahi mō tarangi nei. E hara I te mea, he waiwai tata ki te wāna mō raukawa, e kau, ka roia, e tautoko mai ana I ngā mahi katoa a tō tātou wānanga otira, ngā mahi e kāna ki te pūtaia. So it gives me great honour this morning to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Jessica Hutchins. Jessica is no stranger to Te Wānanga o Raukawa. She's been a long-time contributor to the Wānanga, and in particular to our Pūtaiao Studies program. So Caleb and Pātaka, who spoke just before lunch yesterday, Jessica's spent a long time working closely with them and helping to promote the notion of kaitiakitanga, promoting the notion of rongo matane, and of course the whakaaro that our kai comes from Papa Tuanuku, comes from rongo, and we need to keep finding ways to ensure that we can utilise that relationship that we have with Papa and with rongo. Jessica does a lot of things, but what I would say is that she's a groundbreaker in terms of kaupapa Māori research. She spends a long time in her career advocating for kaupapa Māori as a research methodology and advocating for Mātauranga Māori as a body of knowledge which has a validity to it around environmental aspects in the world in which we live. She's somebody who embraces a number of kaupapa, but probably and more recently the kaupapa of Marakai is something that Jessica has a real passion for. She's written a fantastic book about Marakai, and I think that book is over there, Jessica. So I really encourage you to take a copy home with you before you leave today. It's really, I guess, a whakatakoto whakaaro, or a reflection on what Marakai is about and the relationship that we as Indigenous people here in Aotearoa have with our atua, particularly with rongo, and the relationship that we have from a universal perspective as well. I'm not going to talk too long because I know Jessica's actually going to talk about some of those elements in her kōrero today, but iwi, ngai tahu, Ngāti Huirapa, ko auraki te mauka, tainu atu ki te rātu ka hoona, o te taha kia Ngāti Kurāti. And she comes to us today with a range of kōrero and a range of messages which are aligned to the conference theme of remembering our past, but also reclaiming our future, which is really important in terms of the kaupapa that brings us here today. Nō reira e te iwi, tēnei te mehia atu ki tō tātou kai kōrero tuatahi, o mai te pakipaki, o Jessica.
Tēnā tātou I te whānau, te mea tūtahi I mihi atu kia koe a meihana, te kai karikia I tēnei ata, kei te mahi, kei te mahi, kei te mahi. Kei te mahi hoki ki ngā iwi e toru, Ngāti Toa, Te Ati Awa, me Ngāti Raukawa. Ki te hau kāinga te whānau o te wānanga o Raukawa, I mihi tino aroha kia koutou. Kia koutou ngā mātā waka o ngā haui whā, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ki ngā tangata takitaki o te ao, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Ai, kua he uri o ngā tohi me Ngāti Huirapa, kei etahi atu no India tōku mama, no Gujarati ia, ko Jessica Hutchins tōku ingoa. Kia ora everybody, it's great to be here. I'm really honoured to have been invited to kōrero today. I feel like I've given this kōrero on numerous occasions. Probably and some of you have been in the audience before, so I've fished into my kitty to think about how we can keep stretching the continuum of Mātauranga Māori to bring new insights and new analysis to kaupapa around kaitiakitanga, environmental management, Marakai, in new ways and in new directions, so that we can keep growing our knowledge base. Okay, so I want today to talk about the huaparakore, which is a kaupapa Māori or an Indigenous model for producing a pure product, or you might need to think about it in organics for about 2 seconds and then just ditch that Pākehā framework for thinking about healthy kai and flick back into an Indigenous framework to think about it as huaparakore. As Meihana said, I wear lots of hats. I was kind of thinking, what should I put at the bottom of what I do? I really wanted to put yoga teacher first. I've just come off an 8-day yoga teacher training course, and I love touching my toes. I love being on the mat. And when I think about this kaupapa of huaparakore and all of the things that I do, I live on a little farm, 12 acres. We grow heaps of food. We're producing our own meat. All of that for me, hands in the dirt, being on the front of my yoga mat into Tadasana or Samastiti, is all just about coming home to myself. So easy for me to make the connections. My mother always reminds me that I'm a Gemini and I can flip in between all these different spaces. Okay, so a little bit of an overview. I want to frame the conversation at the beginning around Māori food sovereignty. Within that conversation, I really want to impress on you this notion of diversity and freedom. And Vandana Shiva comes into my mind straight away. If I think of a writer, Indian writer, who talks about food sovereignty, seed sovereignty, the impact of global multinationals on our food system, our well-being and our cultural knowledges, I think of Vandana Shiva's work and what she talks about in terms of diversity and the need to actually keep growing diversity. At the moment in Aotearoa, there's been a high alert for red rust on Mānuka in the far north. So we're talking about disease, let's call it a disease, that can come and attack a monocultured crop like Mānuka. Diversity, both in plant species and in cultural knowledges, is actually our best protection for these types of diseases. I will also have a kōrero this morning around the development story of Huaparakore and talk a little bit about the funding. We had some philanthropic funding from the J.R. Mackenzie Trust and the Todd Foundation when we were out of the research and development phase and into the implementation phase. So I'll talk a little bit about that and open my heart and be a little bit honest with you about where things are at now, because community work, unpaid, we're all passionate for the kaupapa, we love to get in the garden, but there's also a lot of admin that needs to happen, and the potential of the system not quite being realised because I think of not necessarily having funding or not necessarily having the same people on board for years and years. Before I start, I want to dedicate this presentation to Matua Pusi Tikuni, who was the chair of Te Waka Kaiora and the founder from 2001. And unfortunately, Pusi passed away last month, and it was a real shock for our local. And I'm looking out at the audience, I can see some Te Waka Kaiora whānau in the audience and some Huaparakore growers in there. So I dedicate this presentation to Pusi, and although us in the Māori Organics movement were in complete shock that he'd left us before we'd even really finished our work, he's left us with a beautiful taonga and a whittle at the same time to pick this up and to keep going without the most remarkable radiant light of leadership that he provided. So let's begin by talking about food sovereignty and the threats to food sovereignty. I want to start by talking about the circulation of global food circuits, and I'm actually going to read a paragraph or two, just two paragraphs from my book, because I spent quite a long time labouring over those words, and I think it sums it up really nicely, better than me rabbiting on trying to pull something out of the top of my head. But what I've said is that it's due to global food circuits and international capital flows that we're eating food that has travelled thousands of miles from its production source. And when I talk about global food circuits, I'm referring to the pathways that food follows before arriving on our plates. Where's it been? These pathways are determined by political, social and economic dimensions of food production, such as global agribusiness, multinational forces, neoliberal ideologies, food producers, advertisers and marketers. They are also influenced by inputs such as seeds, fertilisers, pesticides, chemicals, water, transportation and distribution. So this notion of a global food circuit is highly complex with multiple players. Global food circuits are underscored by the liberalisation policies of the 20th and 21st centuries, which have seen what I would call the global south into a world farm for a minority of global consumers in the global north. And this mimics for me the extractive relationship set in place in the colonial era between Europe and the rest of the world, where colonies were converted into supply zones of food and raw materials in order to fuel European capitalism and imperialism. So I see these global food circuits and flows of capital as akin to the colonial paths that navigated by the early colonial settlers. They trample on our localised pathways, our knowledges and our food practices in order to produce food deemed culturally appropriate by the other, and in this case the other, the colonizer. These global food circuits do not make sense ecologically or culturally, and this is particularly true in Aotearoa, where our land is rich and our skills are wide in order to produce localised food producing economy. However, to the large agribusiness boardrooms, the current situation makes bottom line sense. Grow as much food per acre as possible using industrialised fertilisers and pesticides, and deliver food commodities via trade subsidies and free trade agreements. So you can go onto Google and you can have a look at food maps, global food circuits. And if you look at that, you can see that the top food companies, and what they own. And not surprisingly, they're 7 or 8 companies who own and control most of the global food supply. They own almost everything. Pepsi-Cola, General Mills, Kellogg's, Associated British Foods, Kraft Foods, Mars, Danone, Unilever, Coca-Cola and Nestle. And Nestle, I must say, have had real impacts in continental Africa in terms of producing an oversupply in formula milk. So really impacting on the relationship that mothers have with regards to breastfeeding their children. So these companies are impacting on our ability to stay within our natural bodies and with our natural connection to the landscape to produce food. So the other threat to food and health sovereignty is this, what Van Danischiefer talks about as a triple crisis. The convergence of climate change, and we heard Rex talk about climate change yesterday, but you put that convergence of climate change with peak oil. I know Donald Trump is going to go and find a whole lot more oil, but climate change, peak oil and food insecurity creates this notion of what's called a wicked problem. And a wicked problem is just a really complex problem that requires multiple collaborations to be able to deal with it. I think another threat is around have we got the technology for you to fix up food production? So, you know, in the past 10, 15 years, we saw a ramp up in Aotearoa around conversations about GE-free. GE crops are going to feed the world. So the reliance on technological fix, again, taking us away from our relationship as nature beings with the environment and our foodscapes to produce food for ourselves. The erosion of biodiversity in food-growing communities is a threat. And I've just put the garden shop syndrome down here. This idea that we think that we need to rely and still engage in capitalist economies and have to go and purchase things from garden shops in order to be food growers. So we're really locked in to the cycles of capitalism, and we have to do quite a lot of things on quite a lot of levels in order to break that, to come back to being food secure and food sovereign. I'm going to call us nature beings in ourselves. The artwork in this presentation is beautiful. It's done by Teresa Reihana, who's a whanaunga of Matua Uncle Percy, and I've got her email address at the end if anybody's interested in purchasing any of her art. She did this piece of artwork in the early 2000s, and it was as a protest or as a commentary on the conversation in Aotearoa around GE. And I think this, you know, for me, this sums a lot of it up. What's driving our food system? The commodification of life. I'm not even going to explain that. It speaks for itself. If I think about Māori food sovereignty, and in the book, I boldly had a go at defining what this was. I think it's the practice of ensuring food secure futures for whānau independent of multinational and national food systems and in harmony with the natural world. So if I just go back to thinking about the garden shop syndrome, when you go to the garden shop and you see Yates products and the organic range of Yates products on the shelf, Yates is actually owned by Monsanto. And Monsanto is a company that participates in the GE technologies and GE-based agriculture. So really cutting the ties, like visually seeing as how cutting the ties and how we participate in the food system, to be independent, to be sovereign, to be self-determining is something that I advocate for in food sovereignty. So that does mean cutting our ties with garden shop. It's about whānau having access to safe, nutritious, culturally appropriate food that's produced locally and free from chemicals, pesticides and genetic modification. And then I have this beautiful quote from Vandana Shiva. I actually met her at a food conference a couple of years ago and asked her bravely if she would write something to endorse the book. And she said yes. And so she wrote this, and it's on the back of the book, and she just wrote it like that. And I thought, that's somebody who's thinking about diversity, thinking about the relationship between seeds. But I love this. It's the idea of diversity and freedom wrapped up in a seed, rejuvenating culture and community, the connection between the soil and the seed. For me, Māori food sovereignty is about diversity and freedom. So Te Waka Kaiora, this is us. Don't really need to explain what we are. This is us in Teresa's picture. We're a national rōpū, or an organisation, a collective that has regional hubs, say, or regional whānau that connect up regionally in a very ad hoc way. So when I say that, I might have given you the impression that there's some overall coordination, and you can go onto our website. We don't have one yet. We were established in 2001. We don't have one, so it's me being honest about where the kaupapa is at. Because the people in our community are actually growers. We're in the garden. If I had an opportunity, a choice to be in the garden or be in front of the computer, I'd go to the garden. So this is just an example of some of the Indigenous development challenges that Flax Roots. We are the kaitiaki of Huaparakore. And so we run the Huaparakore system. And what that is that's a Māori, and I'll say it again last time, Māori organic verification system in New Zealand. For a country of close to 4.2, 4.3 million people, we have 4 organic verification systems. They're all Western based, they're all based on Western science. Not one of those organic verification systems provides a pathway for a kaupapa Māori or an Indigenous story of food production to be told, which I think is appalling. I think that that's just lay out colonisation and let's describe it in terms of foodscapes, and there you go. So we have the organic sector in New Zealand producing food for the Warragul, the white and wealthy, and not providing an opportunity for Māori communities to actually engage in that system. So when Te Waka Kaiora was established in 2001, our Māori growers said, we want a system where we can tell our own kaupapa Māori, our own Indigenous story of agriculture. And so those of us with research experience, myself included, went, okay, let's apply for some research money. This sounds like a research and development project initially. We need to create a system. So we applied to what was then the Foundation for Research, Science and Technology, won a $600,000 research grant. We framed it up in the most neoliberal language we could pick up. And then we won it, and we were really surprised. We didn't deliver on any of the other things that we said we were doing. But what we did was we ran a 3-year research project to develop this, a kaupapa Māori verification and validation system for a pure product. And Matua Pursi was always really clear not to call it like an organic certification system. He said nobody can certify the tikanga of our hapu and our whānau. So all it is it's just a verification and a validation system. What it does though, we spent a bit of time doing this, is that it maps back against the New Zealand organic standard. So it gives our producers in New Zealand an opportunity to call themselves both Huaparakore verified and organically verified. And that was quite an interesting, from a researcher point of view, an interesting exercise of mapping pūtaia, Māori traditional knowledge, back against or overlaying it against a Western framework in the Pākehā organic standard. So this is the tohu that you'll see on a few products. So we haven't been that commercially successful as we promised the government we would be, but we've been really successful on the whānau level. So Kathy Tate-Jamison, who lives probably an hour that way, is a beautiful dairy farmer with beautiful milking herds of cows. She produces yogurt that is already organically certified, but her product also too carries the Huaparakore label. So you can go into supermarkets all around New Zealand and actually in Australia as well can pick up her yogurt. You know it's organic, but you also too know that she brought kaupapa Māori thinking into her agricultural practices, and that's the beautiful thing. So what are the principles of huaparakore? We have 6 kaupapa. Our research question, one research question, here hanga kaupapa o te huaparakore. What constitutes a huaparakore or a pure product? That was our research question. We went all around the motu. We held hui for about 2 years, collected way too much kōrero, went back to the marae, had wānanga, and we're trying to think about how do you develop a system. Bless our kaumātua in the Te Waka Kaiora whānau who bring light and simplicity to what we can turn into being very complex. They saw it just like that. So there's 6 kaupapa, and I'm going to take you through those now. So, and they're in no particular order, and we could have chosen any kaupapa, and I think we might have had like about 80 to 100 kaupapa that came up, but we just chose 6, and like with all traditional knowledge frameworks, with our knowledge systems, it's all interconnected anyway, so it didn't really matter what 6 we chose. It's about people, our community, being able to tell their stories into these kaupapa. So whakapapa is the kaupapa, the connection to the natural environment. What the bullet points are down the bottom is those are some ideas of how we've mapped it against the Western organic standards. So it's about knowing all the origins and the inputs of your product and passing down the knowledge of the whakapapa of your whenua and the food that's grown there. So in our forms, when people have to fill it out, we ask them to lay out the whakapapa of their whenua. Not all of our whānau, Te Waka Kaiora whānau, are growing on family land. Some of them are growing on private land. But it's that idea that actually you begin to fracture the notion, disrupt, as last night, that you get to disrupt the automatic right just to get on a piece of whenua and to grow food. So that's whakapapa. Wairua. Wairua, there's a health and safety component in the New Zealand organic standard. So we mapped this, we mapped peace and safety to here. The idea of protecting and uplifting the state of mind of kaimahi to foster the production of vibrant and life-giving food. Maintaining safe and healthy mahi kai practices. So what this framework is, it's a learning framework, it's a talking into framework. So although that's what Te Waka Kaiora have set out as the, here's some ideas for how you can think about it, when you go through the verification system, you get to put your own interpretation or apply or explain your own tikanga for how you make meaning of this kaupapa of Wairua. The kaupapa of mana, huaparakore is a vehicle for justice, so upholding te tiriti o waitangi, encouraging kotahitanga in whānau and hapu, exercising tinonanga tiratanga through food and energy security. Māramatanga. I think of this as vibration, but it's been written as enlightenment, experiencing, perceiving, and learning from your natural environment to guide your food production through the māramataka, through our calendar. The observation of seasonal patterns and rhythms of the skies, planets, and stars, and recognising tohu, utilising food production as a place of learning. And this is where Percy would often talk about the notion of divine senses. And when I first started having the opportunity to spend time with him, I would hear him talk about divine senses for a long time, and I, this is cool, Didn't quite know what he was really meaning about divine senses. And I think now, for me as a huaparakore food producer, this notion of divine senses becomes clearer and clearer the more I actually take my gumbots off in the mara in my bare feet and can connect both into the earth, but connecting with myself and how I'm feeling, how I'm re-engaging with myself as a food grower, and then being able to eat that food as well. So might seem very notion of divine senses. For me, this is actually at the essence of this huaparakore system. When I read out about what constitutes global circuits of capital and food production, there's nothing divine in any of that. There's nothing divine in the commodification of nature, the circulation of global capital, trade agreements, tariffs. There's nothing divine in any of that, but yet food had a divine place and a divine relationship with our communities. This notion of returning back to eating our cultural landscape, eating the divinity of nature. We've lost our connection as nature beings. So this kaupapa of mārangatanga, for me, just my interpretation, at the moment, because my thoughts change, makes me connect with this notion that Percy laid in front of us of the divine senses. Te Aotearoa, Huaparakuri maintains a natural order. So in any food production or organic system, a natural system, you're wanting to keep a natural order. You're not wanting to go and fracture that natural order. You want to grow in harmony with nature. So we talk about practicing kaitiakitanga, building soil diversity, fertility and health, diversity, respecting the boundaries or the relationships between tapu and noa, ensuring livestock and product are not contaminated with non-permitted inputs. We have all the non-permitted inputs that you would have in an organic system, and protecting the welfare of livestock. And then the tikanga of Modi, the principle of Modi, maintaining healthy soils, healthy plants and healthy people. So for me, I can walk over the farm and just get a sense in my being of where things are at. And that's a connecting in from divine sense of myself as a nature being to the divine sense that's going on in the relationship in my farm. I'm also a biodynamic producer, and so on our farm we've been putting biodynamic preparations on there for probably 13 years now. So in a lot of ways we've created a vibration over very small, 12 acres, but when we were Huaparakuri verified, I do remember Matua Percy standing up on the top paddock and saying, can you explain what this arc is? And my biodynamic head went, yep, I can explain what that arc is. That arc is the vibration and the connection between cosmos and the earth. And it's the vibration that is holding that connection between the cosmos and the earth. So I think about that in terms of Modi. Okay, so those are our 6 kaupapa. And like I said, those kaupapa give you an opportunity to bring in any other kaupapa as well. What it does is it provides a framework to tell a Huaparakuri or a Māori story, an Indigenous story for food production. This framework was taken to Hawaii by Te Waka Kaiora maybe about 3 or 4 years ago and shared with Hawaiian communities. We're really interested in becoming Huaparakuri verified, but with their own tikanga, with their own cultural practices framing that up. So this is what our whāriki is. This is about producing safe food through Māori food communities. Sustainable land management practices is zero tolerance to GMOs, nano and bio and every other non-kind of natural thing that can be put into the land. Pesticide and chemical free, building food resilient Māori communities. Like, what does that really mean? That really, for me, means cutting those ties between the multinational system, the garden shop, in terms of being food producers. Exercising tikanga Māori, and as I said, we're a korowai to the New Zealand Organic Standard. It takes 3 years to become Huaparakuri verified, just as it does to be verified an organic producer in a Western system. And that's because it takes 3 years to transition a piece of land from having had pesticides and chemicals. And I'm not talking about heavy metals in the soil, that's a whole other thing. But it takes 3 years to, and I'm not even going to say completely heal, but to be far enough on that healing journey to return a piece of land back to a state where it can start to radiate its own vibration. Before I was Huaparakuri verified, I was Organic Farm New Zealand verified on the farm, and they're completely 2 different systems. For the verification system, for the Pākehā certification, the Western certification, I'd have an auditor turn up once a year. He'd roll up in his ute, he'd pull out a spade, we'd walk around, he wouldn't be too busy, couldn't have a cup of tea, made scones, couldn't eat the whole meal scones, you know, all of that. We'd go for a walk around the farm, he'd do a spade dig in a few paddocks, we'd do a few worm counts, we'd have a conversation. I can't even remember anything we'd really talk about. He'd check in my shed to check that I haven't got Roundup or any chemicals. he'd look at my 50-page document that I'd filled out, and then he'd be gone, because he had about 4 other verifications to do that day. So there was nothing relational in that process for me. The different verifier came back every year. I would get a typed up certificate from Organic Farm New Zealand, and it cost me $480 a year. When I became Huapatakore verified, and I'll go through this in a minute, but in the third year, for the third year full verification, we have a hui arohi, so you have a community hui, and it's the community who verifies you as being Huapatakore verified. So on my certificate for Huapatakore, I think there might have been 60 to 80 people at the farm, and we had a big hui, and we walked around and we talked about the kaupapa, those 6 kaupapa. I was asked questions to explain how I enact those kaupapa on the farm. And my certificate is awesome. It's made of harakeke, there were heaps of tamariki at the hui, and they've written their names all over it, drawn little pictures, and everybody's signed it everywhere. So it's a participatory, guaranteed kind of system, very different from what the Western organic system is, and it's much more meaningful for me. So this is year 1. This is the verification and validation process. So really, I suppose this image here is the start, as you can see in the middle, it's the start of the awakening in the south to think, I might want to go down this pathway. I wonder what this is like. Maybe today the seeds dropped for you. It's like, oh, maybe I might want to investigate this a little bit more. In year 1, it's about self-verification. So, whakapu moa whānau, self-verification. You've conversation with your whānau that this is what you're wanting to do. You receive some resources from Te Waka Kaiora to support you into the system. And you affirm the tikanga that you use in food production. And you begin to connect in with the self in terms of your observation skills. So, someone who's grown food for a decade now, and with biodynamics, nothing is more useful to me than my own senses and what I know about something. I saw an ad on telly last night for Frontiera, and they'd like overlaid this graphic over the paddock with like 20% moisture content, 18%. They went to a cow with a tag on its ear and had all these, kind of outputs for the cow. And I thought, where is the divine senses between the farmer and what the farmer is producing? So step 2 is whakapu moa rohi. So this is the rohi verification. So this is when somebody else in your rohi will come, or your area, will come and be with you on your farm. And actually it was Pātaka who came and visited me on my farm. And we had a conversation about what's going on. So that's the first time that you've brought somebody external from Te Waka Kaiora in to give, like, I suppose, a third-party verification. And just quickly, when Pātaka came to the farm, we just built a house, and the plumbers put the sewage line in place that I didn't really want it to go. So what it did was it fractured the potential area for growing food. So Pātaka and I had a conversation about how far should the mara be away from that, we don't want to grow food over it, that type of stuff. And that was really helpful for me. And recently we put up a tunnel house because I'm over rabbits and pukeko eating my kai and possums. And we had to make the same decision, where should we put the tunnel house, limited space up by the house. And I recall back that conversation with Pātaka, right, there's a sewage line. We're not having food production, on either side of it for this many metres. The third step, whakapu moa Huapatakore, this is when the kaitiaki rōpū from the Māori Organics group comes and you invite your community and your whānau, and you go through a whole process. You have a wānanga, and you really feel like I'll just say you, I'll say me, I really felt like I was given permission to carry the kaupapa of Huapatakore, and that I was being asked to do that with integrity. So I think that's really different from my experience with the Pākehā Organic Verifier, because if anything, I just felt like I wanted to do something really bad just to piss them off. But this one, I felt like actually I want to uphold the integrity of this Indigenous system. So kaupapa Māori verification for food and food production. And these are some of our beautiful whānau from Te Waka Kaiora. People might recognise these faces. Geneva and Ray from the far north. They were our first Parakore whānau to be verified. They're no longer on this piece of whenua, but can't see in the photo, but there's lots of whānau around there. Kaiwaka and Lynn from Whaingaroa, from Raglan, and they've got they're doing amazing things and growing beautiful food. They're leasing Māori land on a beautiful piece of whenua that overlooks the ocean in Whaingaroa. And last time I was having a conversation with Kaiwaka, he was really he was communicating with me that the iwi had ideas about building motel units on this piece of land for development purposes, and he was really disappointed at the potential of food growing, and their working, bringing people from community in there, could have been usurped because there was greater economic potential to put motel units on this piece of land. And then this is Auntie's Garden, Waipatu Marae in the Hawke's Bay, and just on the other side of where that white car is the wharekai, is the kitchen, and then the wharenui, the meeting house. And these gardens are amazing. These are called Auntie's Garden because a different auntie is responsible for every plot. I think first of all, a community gardening, yeah, as you can. But you know, this is inspiring. I wish that there was a photo of the wharenui right beside it, so you can see the potential of food growing and being able to feed our communities from the gardens next to our meeting places. So just before I move on to the next slide, I want to talk about, I just want to park the Hua Parakore system for a minute. So that's my kōrero round. This is what we developed. We had that 600,000 to build the system. We had philanthropic money to strengthen our governance, to get financial management systems in place. And that was incredibly helpful at the time. But it wasn't a long enough time frame, that's what I'd say about that. We needed a much longer time frame to really make that happen. Paying consultants, which is what we did, that was the way that we spent the money, to come in and give us financial advice and look at the system and say, in year one, you know, it's $50 to join up, you need this many people in year one in order to make it sustainable. And from year one, you need this many over into year two, it's $75 in year two. Year three, you need to carry this many forward, and then this could be your projected income stream. I really understood that on paper, but it hasn't worked out in terms of being able to implement that for the organisation. So that's where we're at in our development pathway now. We launched the system in 2011, so that's 6 years ago. And the next phase for Te Waka Kaiora would be to pick up that work that was funded by philanthropic money to try and build a sustainable organisation. And when I say that, I mean in terms of funding and people to actually do the work. And as a bonus, the website be really good. So the Hua Parakore, what I want to say before the next slide is an Indigenous framework. That's all it is. It's an Indigenous framework, and it's an Indigenous framework that can be applied in a whole lot of other places as well. When I was talking to Caleb last night about it, he was telling me that they're using the Hua Parakore framework as an assessment of environmental effects for them at a local council level. So they're just taking their kaupapa and using it as an environmental effects framework. So really, I suppose what I'm saying here is, how many frameworks do we need to develop? Can we not work with what we've already got? And so I just couldn't help myself, and I'm not apologising. So I've taken the Hua Parakore framework into my yoga teaching and into my own self-practice as a yoga student. And you might recognise part of the image in the yoga hard pose card here. But for me, when I think about myself as a nature being and my place of home on the yoga mat, I really felt that vibration within myself. And so all I'm doing, and it's a work in progress in my head thinking about it, is how do I apply these kaupapa onto the yoga mat? So when I'm teaching Māori communities, with Māori communities, I can make this whole world of practice relevant in a way that supports our community to come back to feel that vibration of the nature being, that for me then is also connected to our vibration as food growers. So I hope you followed all those things because I really get it. So if I reflect on the Huaparakuri system, and just winding up here, I think about the need to build a sustainable funding stream, and I've talked about this. I mean, that's the next step, and that's a big challenge for us with Matua Pusi having passed. At the moment, there is nobody fulfilling any roles when he passed. Everything just we've just decided to put roles to the side, and we're going to gather together for an AGM and reset as a real point. Keeping people interested with the required skills engaged in the work, and I like to be down as the karo of the notion of work on. So we've lost a few work-ons along the way. People got really burnt out and have dropped off and come back on, and dropped off and come back on, and dropped off and not come back on. But this is important. The fluid nature of community work, short-term memory, not leaving behind the gains of funded work. So with people dropping off, they have no they went around at the research and development phase in the $600,000 investment into the research project. And as a researcher, I take really seriously a $600,000 research investment to make sure that its potential is realised. Succession planning, realising the potential of a system, and this idea of reimagining modern day Indigenous food stories. So again, I'm picking up on what Miriana was saying yesterday. This idea of reimagining Otaki as a Māori speaking community. So let's reimagine the modern day Indigenous food story. And then let's put that reimagining into practice through our own vibration and start to enact it. So key messages. This word of fracture, disrupt, this passive receiver. This was from the beautiful presentation yesterday about the climate change hui into whānau Apanui next year. So we need to fracture being passive receivers of these wicked problems. And this is really, if I flip that around, it's about enacting self-determination. Looking for Indigenous solutions, frameworks and creativity. I mean, it's a creative act to take the Huaparakuri framework and apply it out in a whole lot of different directions. And I'm sure there's a whole lot of Indigenous frameworks in your community where you can do the same. And then native to native networking. So collaborations as momentums of change. I hope I heard that right yesterday, but this was the kōrero again from the people who spoke about the climate change going into whānau Apanui. Collaborations as momentums of change. We don't need to work by ourselves. We're much better holding hands and working together. And in order to combat a wicked problem, what I understand from reading the literature as a recovering academic is that we have to be able to work together to do that. It's not one person, it's multiple knowledges and multiple skill sets that will create this change. So my final point is around Indigenous food sovereignty. And if my last comment is that we need to return to eat our cultural landscapes through what Percy would describe as being all of our divine senses. And for me, this is decolonisation. And Shirley Simmons last night talked to me about the notion of micro-decolonisation. We don't need to fix the whole system, but we need to be able to engage in something at least once or twice a day. It's a micro-active decolonisation. So the practice of coming home for me in the mara, in the garden, or on the farm, or the practice of coming home at the front of the yoga mat is a micro-practice of decolonisation. So I have 18 and a half minutes left. And in the last 10 minutes, I want to do a little exercise with you all. I've never done this before, so be kind to me. So I want to invite you to join me in a meditation for maybe 8 to 10 minutes. We'll see how we go. To come home to yourself and to connect in with your divine senses. So in order to begin this meditation, Just ask you to be, maybe put the laptops down, turn the phones off, and make sure you've got a bit of space. You might need to turn the chair around. And I just want you to begin by putting your 4 feet, actually lifting the feet and then putting them back onto the ground. And the knees are hip distance apart. And feel the feet through the socks, it's a cold day, and the boots and shoes, through the carpet, through the concrete and into the earth. You might need to come forward a little bit on the chair so the pelvis tips forward a little bit. And you can elongate up through the spine. Roll the shoulders up to the ears and take them back to the shoulders and just let them hang off the back of the shoulder blades. Lengthen up through the base of the spine, all the way up through the crown of the head, and then slightly drop the chin. Close the eyes. Connect in with the body. Drop quickly into the self. Connect with the breath moving through the body. Give yourself some time to follow the inhale breath. And then some time to follow the exhale breath. And just follow the sound of my voice. You don't need to move your body at all, but follow the sound of my voice. We rotate the consciousness through the body. So bring your awareness to your feet, your ankles, up your calves of both legs, to the knees, to the thighs, front and back. Back of thighs rest on seat. Up to the hips. To the belly. Soft and relaxed. To the chest. Through the collarbones. Out to the shoulders on both sides. Down both arms to the elbows, the wrists, and the hands. Taking the awareness up to the neck, to the chin, bottom lip, top lip, nose, eyes, eyebrows, forehead, front of face, back of head. Feel your body heavy on the seat and soft on the seat. Letting go of the physical body. Explore your connection to the natural environment and feel it in your body. Invite the kaupapa of whakapapa to your divine senses. Honour the sacredness within yourself as a light being connected to Rangi Nui, sky deity, and Papatuanuku as earth deity. Invite the kaupapa of Wairua to your divine senses. Visualize yourself standing in your own self-determining right, connected to your own cultural foodscapes. Invite the kaupapa of mana to your divine senses. Feel the resonance, the vibration of healthy soil between your hands. Imagine holding it, smelling it, rubbing it between your fingers. Invite the kaupapa of Modi to your divine senses. Open your awareness to insight and enlightenment that comes from being connected to your local foodscapes. Invite the kaupapa of Māramatanga to your divine senses. Now return to the essence of yourself as a nature being and invite the kaupapa of Te Aotearoa to your divine senses. Now gather all these divine senses. Visualize them as light and see the light vibrate inside you, inside the whole body. The whole body. The whole body. Bring your awareness slowly back to your physical body. And maybe begin by moving your fingers and your toes inside your shoes. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Namaste, the light in my heart runs the light.
Tēnā rā wātu koe, Jessica, ko tino tau I te mau ki ana o tātou mātua tūtuna, o te mauri tau tērā. Nō reira, kei te meka kera ki a koe. I tō kaha ki te kawe mai ngā whakaro e hono nei a tātou kia whakatua. Kia rangi nui atu nei o te rā kia rongo matāne. Nō reira, tēnā ka mihia kera ki a koe. I'm going to open up the floor now, because I think it's important to give you an opportunity to put perhaps a few questions to Jessica while she's here. I know we didn't have an opportunity to do that yesterday, so I want to take that opportunity this morning to do so. So now that you're relaxed and you're in that good space, I'm hoping that there might be one or two whakaro or pātai from some of you this morning. And I'm going to ask our kaiapina pātaka that is there with the microphone. So as you feel ready, just to my te renga, and we'll take some questions from the floor. While we're doing that, again, just I just want to acknowledge your kōrero, and in many ways it's a continuation of the theme that Lance talked about last night, which on one hand is about disruption, and disruption of global systems to find a more indigenous way to help maintain Māori and mana. On the other hand, though, I think it's also about reconnecting with those traditions and those pastimes that our tūpuna have handed down to us. And it's up to us, I think, to embrace those and to do what we've done, which is put in place an example of taurina so that our tamariki can walk in the forest. So I wanted to make that point and again acknowledge your kōrero. And we might have some whakaaro, some pātai from the floor. Good opportunity to ask about kua parapore. It's an exciting kaupapa, and it's one which is being embraced by whānau across the motu as well. But I think that session must have been very good just because you've relaxed people to the point where everybody is very toe right now. So, okay, it looks like we yes, we do. Okay, kia ora. Matua kuri atu te rākau kōrero kia.
Jessica. Kia ora, Jessica. Me atu ki a koe, mō tō kōrero nui, mō tō mahi pai, mō nā kai. Tangata whenua o Aotearoa, o a tēnā koe ki tū. Jessica, I just want to stand over. I always think it's a shame when people don't ask questions, so I always pause. And if there are no questions, I'd like to make a comment. And I really want to congratulate you on your presentation, not only your presentation, but the practical work that you're doing. I love the phrase that you used, a recovering academic. That is so great that you realise that, because a lot of academics don't. I was at a hui last week in Hawati, and the hui was on youth obesity. And it was really interesting to hear there were professors there from Harvard University and all over the place, and some of them came up with sort of patterns of how epidemics start, and how we all know that stuff, you know. So they're sitting in their ivory towers doing that, and that's getting modified. But we had some really great presentations, and those great presentations were actually relating it back from that theory back to the people, back to the land, back to the kai, and back to us, you know, where it all starts in those two. So I just want to congratulate you on that money that you're doing. And one of the presenters that we saw at the hui in Hawati had done an analysis. She was a dietitian, and she'd done an analysis on the different types of kai that different indigenous people eat. And she had studied a North American Native American tribe who ate whale, and they had actually done an analysis on the types of benefits that you get from this particular whale, and they were rich in vitamin C and rich in vitamin A. And I don't know whether we've done such an analysis on all of our kai, but I think that it's something that we really should do, and really promote that as the kai that heals, because our kai doesn't just sustain us, it is our medicine also. So once again, just congratulations on your presentation, and lovely to see this work being done. Kia ora.
Oh, kia ora, Jessica. Thank you for this incredible kōrero. So I was really thinking about what you're talking about in relation to challenges and the sustainability of this particular system. And because you talked at the beginning about the whole, colonisation angle and decolonisation and the way our food systems have been colonised by human corporations. So having that sort of whole system approach to go back in it, and I didn't really see that much in your framework on Roto or the economic or entrepreneurial angle. And I'm just wondering whether you thought about taking that kind of incubator marketing sort of economic angle as well to create a sort of sustainable system where, it's a revenue generating marketing. It's kind of a bit more of a business spin on it, but it's also a systemic approach to what we're actually dealing with, this kind of problem. Oh, and on top of that, if you take that kind of incubator approach, some entities or institutions might take, for example, a couple of % of revenue from particular businesses that you're supporting, which means that you have a constant revenue stream, which actually helps to sustain the system itself.
Sure. Ganahi, thank you for that part. It's a great part. And yes, we have thought about it, and in the financial business model that we engaged Māori consultants to help work up with us, they had that in there as well. So I think I talked about the different pricing at stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and then there was a corporate pricing model for businesses, and then that was on paper going to bring in more revenue for the organisation. So there has been a financial business model, but it just, we haven't been able to implement it. We haven't been able to implement it because no one in the organisation is paid. Everybody's working other jobs. We just really love the COPA part. It's that type of issue that we're facing. So I think in the next phase of development, we really need to think about getting someone paid with the skills that are required. So there's skills and then there's passion, and they're awesome, but they're not necessarily you need different things at different times. We've needed passion over the last decade to get where we've got to. Now we need really honed up skill set. And it might not be Māori growers who necessarily have that skill set. Yeah, so it's a really good question. We've had conversations with organisations like Whakatū, a couple of Māori producers like Miraka we had a conversation with, but because it's really hard to meet those corporate entities on a level playing field when you're not organised and you're a community group, so that's where the issues lie in. So I think we'll look for more philanthropic funding, or we need to find a pathway to be able to bring us up to a level playing field. And when I say that, I mean governance, management, the whole thing, communications, everything. It's like we need to create a mini functioning business in order to take it to that next level. In saying that, we've held the corridor since the system was developed in 2011, and I'm not saying that this is an excuse, but we've held the corridor that actually it's been whānau that have driven this, and so it's been whānau that have been moving it and holding it and keeping it forward. And I think the system has some other potentials that can really be realised. And when I put up that phrase, native to native networking and food sovereignty, I think there's real potential for collaborations. Native to native food sovereignties, Indigenous communities. We traded food across the world. We have created food groups, Indigenous food pathways. So we think domestically what needs to be done, internationally in collaboration with Indigenous partners, we can do it too.
Thank you for those questions. I think it's really important and appropriate to be able to have some opportunity to do that. I know there's some more part-time in the audience. I've just received the nod that it's time to move on. So you might have an opportunity in the morning to ask your questions to Jessica as well. Thank you also, Jessica, for making mention of Matua Whisi. Matua Whisi was a contributor to our Rongoa program, and he was here at one of our conferences, I think 3 years ago, which was run by Andrina and her team as well. So when we were talking about his contribution to Kua Parakuri, we also think about his contribution to this place, to the Wainanga, and to our Rongoa Studies program. E te iwi koe te wāhi ki te kōrero tōtahi mō tēnei ata. O mai anō te paki ki Jessica. Okay, we are going to move on to the second part of this morning, which is the two streams. I wanted to be all stream 1 and stream 2. So in your programs, page 23 and 25 is a whakamārama. So I'll ask you now, and I'll ask our people who are contributing to those streams as presenters, if you can make your way either to Kukutawaki, which is on the other side there, and I'll ask our Wānanga staff to escort our people over there, or the other stream is in here. So we probably need about 5 minutes for our presenters to get set up. And 11:15, we're back over here, I think, for morning tea. So,
So this is going to be our speaking board.
oh, great.
I actually like watching them. But we will sit on the front table. Yeah. But then at the end, we can come up. The cooking I would do together.
Oh yes, kia ora koutou. Maihana, I just want to be clear that stream 1 is in here. 2 people just asked me, so either we're not clear or something's not clear. Stream 1 is in here, and for those of you who want to go to stream 2, it's in Kukutauaki, and then you'll be back here for morning tea.
So here we've got a speaking board, right? But we don't need to look at this.